Today's episode is proudly sponsored by Hellbender Vinyl. For those of you that don't know, Hellbender is a vinyl record pressing plant located right here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, doing high quality, professional, top of the line record pressing, baby. We finally got one here. There aren't very many in the world, let alone the country, and to have one right under our nose is an insane resource. So if you are a musician looking to get some stuff pressed to wax, I highly recommend checking out the folks over at Hellbender. Tell them Sykes sent you. I've always wanted to say that. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Sit back, relax, and let's start the beats. So it's been a while since I've done one of these episodes, not a podcast, but what I like to call the unofficial second name of my podcast, which is Strangers in My Studio.
Okay.
I met you about 3.5 minutes ago for the first time. And it's nice to meet you, Jim. Thanks for coming on the show. Jim
Likewise.
O'Brien, everybody. Make some noise for the internet. And you can correct me if I say anything wrong about you.
Okay.
But you are a singer, songwriter from the Pittsburgh area.
So far.
Doing stuff that is reminiscent of like a pop rock, indie rock, acoustic. Kind of, it really probably just depends on what you're in the mood for, depending on the day, depending on the gig, whatever.
I would say that's very accurate.
Okay, very cool. Well, thanks for being here, Jim.
Thank you for having me.
What would you like to say about yourself to the people of the internet?
I am a local Pittsburgh area musician. I gig probably anywhere from 2 to half a dozen times a month, given what the month looks like. Anywhere from bars to wineries. I like to, when I do gig, I do a lot of covers of classic rock songs to more modern stuff, 80s hits, 70s hits. Just I try to do a big variety of that. But in addition to playing those gigs out, I do write and record a lot of original music in my free time. I do that recording. I do that all at home and get that mixed and mastered by somebody else I work with, but I try to work a little bit of my original stuff into my gigs while I'm playing out, but mostly it's primarily like covers depending on the venue and the setting we're in, but always looking for places to push or do anything like that supports original music or anything in that area. So like always trying to submit to the local radio stations for local submittals, that sort of thing. Always looking for new places to try to play that showcase anything as far as like original music and songwriting is concerned. And that's my preamble.
Gotcha. I find that people in your realm have a lot of like positives that traditional bands don't have, but then on the flip, I mean, it's a double-edged sword where there's probably some disadvantages too. Advantages would be just the opportunity to gig is so much greater if you are not only doing cover songs, but if you're doing it solo.
Yeah.
The opportunities to do stuff in restaurants, bars, breweries, wineries, distilleries, otheries, whatever thing, eateries. That's great. And it's so difficult, I think, for bands to get those opportunities because, volume, space, logistics, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But then on the flip, you get put into a position, I imagine, where, as you said, you're trying to work in original songs when you can. But for the most part, it's like, play the hits, dummy.
Yeah, more petty, which is great. I love playing Tom Petty stuff, but yeah, so it's hard to find the places to do that. And, I did, years ago, I did do cover bands for a bit, and it just, in real time watched it get harder and harder to find places to even, we were doing strictly covers every night. And I watched a bunch of places. At the time I lived out in Greensburg, and a lot of places out there were closing that would have bands, or would get more and more strict about when they would because of noise complaints and stuff. So, I see it harder to find places that have full bands anymore, at least depending the area and stuff.
Totally, totally. And that's not anything unique to uh what you're doing. Even a lot of like places that are fucking venues, not just like bar restaurant places, venues, clubs that are built to do live music
Mhm.
have to deal with all of these strange neighborhood things as I don't know, like all these people that have money move into these areas, these city neighborhoods, into these new apartments that get built that are around all these venues that have been venues for years. And then they start complaining about
Yep.
it. And I don't know. I'm not, we're not going to get into a whole social political wormhole of, don't move into the city if you don't want to deal with the city.
Right,
But,
right.
hey, it's art.
Yep.
And with what you're doing, you mentioned playing in cover bands, full bands prior
Mhm.
to what you are doing now. Did you ever play in any bands that were like strictly original?
Not after back in high school I did, but,
Okay, yeah.
after that, no. In fact, I stopped writing any original stuff for years and years until COVID. I kinda picked up songwriting again just 'cause the extra time was there. I would have these big blocks of just especially early COVID where nobody was going anywhere and people, didn't know what the rules were yet and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was a good time to get back into it, and sort of just haven't stopped since as far as that sort of reignited how much I enjoyed doing it. I used to do it in high school, maybe still kept writing songs a little bit in college, and then stopped for years and years. And then just that change in schedule and having maybe the time to do it was made me realize how much I miss doing it, and maybe
Yeah.
how helpful it is to keep it as a practice and as like a just as something, I more off and on. I'll get more and less serious about how much I'm working and how many I'm working on or whatever, but it's pretty much since then I've kept it as at least some level of a constant, which has been, nice
Yeah.
to keep it around.
With the break that you mentioned, were you still doing like cover gigs and
Mhm.
things in that time period? So that's
Yeah.
been consistent
Mhm.
then at that point. So I'm really curious what the landscape is like for somebody in your position, because again, like with a band, it's just so much different. And for whatever reason, I actually haven't had a lot of people on the show that are in your position that are doing a lot of the, these like, I don't know, like not traditional venue gigs,
Okay.
right? So I imagine you are booking yourself
Mhm.
in all of these things. You don't work with like an agent or anything like
Nope.
that, right? And also these restaurants, breweries, and things like that, they don't have like a dedicated talent coordinator. Maybe
Mhm.
some of them do,
They might
but I
have the
imagine they don't for the most part. So you're like, how do you even like get these gigs? How do you find the door to get into? Because I imagine it's probably kind of difficult.
early on, Facebook was a big help. The hardest thing was getting just the first small handful of them. Then you could cut videos of you playing somewhere with real people around, and then you could send that somewhere else and say, "Look, I really did it." And then,
Uh-huh.
but that sort of builds momentum on itself over time. Now I'll reach out to a venue's Facebook page, send them my Facebook page, and usually that's enough as far as maybe proof that, yeah, at least the other places were duped enough to hire me to come play.
Sure,
And
yeah.
so, like, you can blame them if it doesn't go well, that sort of thing. But, honest social media has been that's where one place where it has been very helpful, and I'm not a big fan of social media, but it has been where 80 to 90% of the booking I do comes from is through just Facebook pages or occasionally Instagram pages, but mostly just social media reach outs.
Yeah. And whenever you are booking at these places, do you try to lock in like getting like a regular schedule with these types of places, or is it more of a one-off thing?
I love it if I can. There's a handful of places that I might have a good relationship with the person that does the booking, and we early in the year will sit down and we'll pick a handful of dates throughout the year, and those are always nice because then it's nice to have the reliability of it, and it's nice to be able to plan ahead and not feel like I'm scrambling month to month or week to week to try to line up or
Yeah.
fill my calendar basically.
Yeah, definitely. With some of these places, whenever so I'm like it's like I almost apologize for asking you so
Mm.
many questions, but then I realized we're on a fucking podcast
Yeah,
and that's what we're
that's-
supposed to be doing. Duh.
If somebody has, those same ones, it'd be good to answer them.
So and regarding like the variety of cover stuff that you um do like the bars or restaurants or whatever, do they say like, oh hey, we want stuff from this area or don't play this stuff, or they just kind of like do whatever?
Most places are pretty much do whatever. I've tried to cultivate it to where it's more of it's supposed to have pretty broad appeal. If I play a song, I'd like most people in the room to at least recognize it. But I do some loop pedal work and certain songs I might beatbox a little bit over or something. So I try to give them each, if I can, a little bit of their own flavor, but then try to do a lot of popular hits like I do Man Eater by Hall & Oates, or Tears for Fears, Everybody Wants to Rule the World. But each of those I have like my own specific things I'll loop up and stuff before I do them. And so I try to make them each a little bit unique. And typically I don't have an issue with genre or anything. Now that we're through or almost through March, this month is always tricky for me though, because my last name's O'Brien. And then this is the one month that people will sometimes come and be very disappointed that I'm not playing just a bunch of Celtic songs and stuff because,
Certainly.
Yeah, I could see why they would think that. And I will sometimes, I got one this year, somebody will message my Facebook page ahead of time just to check. And I'm almost glad they do, because then I can tell them I know 2 or 3, and that's going to be about all you'll hear. So please don't come and expect it to be like an authentic Irish evening or anything like that.
Have you ever considered having like a pseudo name for the month of March?
That would be a good idea.
Just
even
like
something small,
Jim
like
the player.
Yeah, or
Jim
Jimmy
the guy.
Jimmy O'Brien, or just a small, a little bit of flair to it. But that'd be a good idea. I have a year to brush up on it roughly now if I start.
Or you could just learn, maybe there's opportunity. Maybe you could just learn more songs.
I could, yeah. And then, so I mean, that's so that my kids could sing on it for just for entertainment purposes.
Yeah.
But yeah, live I'll do covers and try to make them their own thing. But no, it would be kind of a fun thought to make a cover recording to try to do something maybe a little bit different with it.
Yeah.
But something I haven't tried yet.
Gotcha. With playing in all of these different places, another thing that is unique to what you're doing is that I imagine you probably have to bring your own sound a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you do lights or any of that fancy stuff. Maybe you have like a a simple little bar? I don't know. What's
I-
your setup like?
It is very simple. So back when I was in the cover band, our bass player was the guy that I just asked all my gear questions to because I didn't know a lot of that. And I basically went to him and said, "What is a cheaper version of the Bose stick speakers that you see everybody using?" And as silly as this sounds, the company that I bought mine off of is a company called Turbo Sound, which sounds made up, but it's I've been using it for probably 6-7 years now, and it's held up really good. It fills, whatever rooms I've had to with it and stuff. So it's just one of those little stick in the corner of the room
Yeah.
speakers. I have not delved into the world of lights yet. Another one that I've batted around for years but never done anything with.
Yeah. I mean, the light might not necessarily be appropriate or needed or even welcome depending on some of the spaces that you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it depends. Like some of them I think it would be a cool addition. And some of them I deep down inside would find something very funny about, like, because there is the occasional gig that I'll go to and it's dead. And there's something I would find funny about setting up lights for,
Sure.
for that crowd. But
Who's this
yeah.
guy?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, something I've thought about but never delved into.
Of all of the different variety of places you get to play, what is like, I guess, like, what's your favorite? What's it like? Like awesome. Like I get to play a fucking pizza place. I don't know. Do you have like a preference?
I would say a winery outside in the summer on like an afternoon is probably my like absolute favorite gig to have, because usually you get a very good turnout for that. I love playing anywhere. It's always fun, but winery crowds specifically seem bars versus wineries. Winery people seem like they are paying a little bit more attention to what you're playing and what's going on entertainment wise, depending on the bar. And I love playing outside. That's always just makes it a little bit better. So I would say outdoor winery gig in the afternoon would be my favorite.
Yeah. What about a least favorite?
Least favorite. Nothing worse than being at a dead gig. And then at that point, I think it would come down to what did I agree to for that evening? Like if I went somewhere, I try to make it an hour or less away, but somewhere there's a math equation out there, distance over opportunity lost versus number of people there.
Sure, yeah.
So worst gig, I'd say somewhere that I've just driven very far away to play very late to just the bartender. And at that point I might, still I try to never be upset about it. Like it's still, I'm still out. I'm still doing what I really enjoy doing. And that's my evening.
It's rehearsal.
It's
I
rehearsal.
guess, yeah.
Worst case, I'll set my phone up and
record it,
record some
little
of it
content.
for content or something.
You can
practice songs you don't get played as often, that sort of thing.
I was just about to say you can experiment with something maybe you don't know. You're still trying to figure out the kinks of it.
The bartender's going to hear a lot of original music, so buckle up.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So what is your situation when it comes to like requests? Do you get requests from people ever, or do they just kind of leave you alone?
I always say I will do the request if I know it happily. But if I don't, I won't make anybody suffer me stumbling through it.
Yeah.
So and it's it's a lot of the same ones. Country Roads is the most common one that I get.
John Denver.
And it's usually, and I don't mind because it's usually what's happened the last probably half dozen times is somebody sends their kid over with a couple of bucks and they'll ask if I know Country Roads. And at that point, yes, I do. So.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, like, if there are any songs in particular that stick out to you that maybe you didn't know, but you ended up almost feeling forced to learn as a result of them being requested so many times.
Sometimes I'm trying to think of one that was request based. Yeah, I've learned some, like I used to get Leonard Skinner requested a lot, so I do Simple Man now. If somebody asks for a Skinner song, um, I did learn some Fleetwood Mac after being asked for that a couple. But like, there's also ones I consistently get asked if I know anything by the Eagles. I should learn something in there, but I've never, never have gotten around to it. Jim, well, I can't believe I'm blanking on the name. Who's the acoustic? James Taylor is one I get a lot, especially with my first name being James. But I don't know any James Taylor songs, but I'm still working on that. And early on when I was started doing the acoustic thing, my my oldest kid was toddler age at that point, and he would sometimes pick just songs that seemed to stick with him. I found would be good ones to add. Like he got really into Man Eater by Hall & Oates, and that was his favorite song for a while, so I learned that one. He got really into Dirty Work by Steely Dan. That was like his favorite song for a while, so that's when I learned that one for the set list. And those ones ended up being, okay, maybe if it works for a 3-year-old, if there's something about that song that's making it stick in his head, maybe I can add it to the set list and it'll work.
Definitely. On the flip, I'm a big fan of these yin yang questions.
Mhm.
So are there any songs that like that you can play that you've learned that you're not particularly fond of always playing?
That's a good one. I would say to kind of circle back to that same answer, I really don't like playing Country Roads because it's one of those ones that I don't listen to this song in my free time, and as simple as it is, do you ever have like a mental, once you start making the same mistake, you make it over and over again?
Oh,
So
sure, yeah.
I won't do it on the first chorus, but like late in that song, and even off the top of my head right now, I don't know if it's Take Me Home or Country Roads first when you sing it. But at some point, every time I play that song late into it, I'll sing Country Roads before you sing Take Me Home, or Take Me Home before you sing Country Roads. But I will routinely mess that song up. And it's not a difficult song, but it becomes a mental stumbling block that I keep
Totally
walking into over and over again.
Well, that's the thing that's like really impressive it's really impressive to me about people that do the kind of stuff you do, in the sense that it's so much material to learn, and also just how exhausting doing a set can be. Like I play in ding dong loud guitar music bands, and we play like 25-30 minute sets on average. And I can't, you're probably doing what, 2-3 hours sometimes, depending on the gig.
They're usually typical gigs 3 hours, and I'll take a break in the middle.
Yeah. And that's just like, it's a long time. That's a lot of material. It's just you up there. But I mean, you've been doing it for a long time. So imagine now it's like.
Yeah. And there is one thing that I've loved is getting incorporating the looping into it, because I almost structure it now around, once I've been playing for a while and my hands will get tired. There's some songs that you loop at the beginning, and then you don't play the rest of the way. And that's set. And you can, that one, the hands can take a break.
Tricky.
Yeah. So I do, over time, I've tried to structure things at least a little bit that way, where I have a handful of, okay, these are hands-free songs. These are very, very minimal. Maybe this is a long one where I don't have to sing for a while, or this is where I'll do a couple that are lower register because my voice is getting a bit hoarse,
Yeah.
that
Gotcha.
sort of thing.
So whenever you got into the looping, I imagine that kind of opened up a big realm of possibilities of like songs that you couldn't have done before, or maybe just couldn't have done as creatively. Like something like, I imagine like Tears for Fears or something like that. Like you could play it without the fancy stuff, but the fancy stuff probably makes it so much better. Because that song is so heavy on like the rhythm, chord, and melody. And if it's just you have to give up one of them.
Right.
But with a loop, you can get fancy.
Yep. And just there's like a certain there's like a almost that gallop rhythm to it that it has. It keeps it moving forward. So that makes it a lot of fun. And one I forgot to say too in my setup, two things I use in my pedal board. I do have the looper, and then I also have a harmonizer that I'll use, that it takes the feed of what you're playing. So it'll, major chords, it'll give you that third, versus when you play minors, it'll drop it. So I'll use that for certain songs, and I try to like be selective about where I'll use it and stuff. But so there are some extra like vocal flares you can add to it.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun, and it seems like, uh, you know, the technology is so cool that has come out over time. Not that a lot of this stuff is like super new, but it's getting better and better and easier to use.
Mhm.
And I always enjoy when I see somebody out that is like putting in the extra razzle dazzle on like throwing a loop in or using
Yeah.
like the harmonizer thing. And I've seen guys play sometimes that like I realize I'll like turn around, I'm like, holy shit, there's only one fucking guy back there.
Mhm.
You know, you don't like really think about it
Yeah.
until you start to hear somebody killing it. And you're just like,
Yeah.
whoa.
That's high praise if you can get somebody to think that more than one person was there.
Yeah.
You know? So
And I imagine you're probably maybe not necessarily like anti backtracks, but maybe it's just a pain in the ass to incorporate them.
yeah, I don't use them. I would not also part of that being I don't use a set list or anything, so I like to go and just gauge it off what seems to be working crowd wise and that
Sure.
sort of
You'd
thing.
have to have like backtracks built for like 5,000 songs.
Yes. And like even my cheaters that I have, I try not to use it when I can help it, but I, I don't even use an app or anything. I just have a Word document that has the songs that I need help on the lyrics for,
Mhm.
but I'm not using anything fancy as far as getting those loaded. So even having backing tracks ready, I would have to have I'm saying I lack the organization, I think, to have backing tracks ready to go for different songs and when I'd need them.
Yeah.
So, like, part of it being that I just make what I'm using at the time, then I don't have to remember to have it
Uh-huh.
in order.
Yeah, I imagine like there's I bet you a very easy way that you could cheat this if you wanted to. And maybe there's some acoustic or solo performers doing this, and maybe I'm going to let the cat out the bag. I just thought of this.
Mhm.
So, is there a world where hypothetically, right? Like you could use like karaoke software, like one of those like database karaoke databases that has every fucking song in it,
Mm.
right? And you just play the song, you play on top of the song, and you have the karaoke prompt just face towards you. So only you can see it. So then you have a database of backtracks that you didn't have to build. You
Yeah.
play on top of them, you got all the lyrics, and when it starts, it tells you the fucking key and the tempo and all that shit.
Even count you in with those
Yep.
little tiny cubes at the
Uh-huh.
bottom. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. I don't see why not.
Hey,
'Cause that
somebody take it and run with it.
yeah,
Experiment.
there
Try
you
it out.
go. This guy sounds amazing. Yeah, that would work. I don't see what would be stopping anybody.
Yeah. It's just a thought.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm
until somebody walks behind him and see. Yeah.
yeah. With this is kind of a I'm not trying to ask any too many like negative tell me horror stories
Mm.
questions things, but do you ever have to deal with like hecklers or anything like that?
For the most part, no. I've been pretty lucky in that regard, but my probably my favorite just short story about when I was doing the cover band before, we one time played to a bar that was just the bartender and one lady just hammered out of her mind on the other side of the bar, actively booing us at like the end of like every song we did.
Mhm.
But no, other than that, doing the solo acoustic stuff, I've maybe had people that come in too drunk and get too close, and worst I've ever had is people asking to sing with you.
Oh,
'Cause some people
yeah.
think that you wanna do duets. Some people also think, like, it is the way I have my mic set up and stuff when I perform, I'm right up against it, and people will come in drunk and think that, we can do the hold it 6 feet away from us and sing duets together, during different ones. So that's probably I wouldn't say hecklers so much as, um and I'll get that in, like, social clubs where I'll play. Like, there's maybe a comfort level with, um, thinking that that's something that people wanna do.
Yeah, I don't do any sort of gigging in the way that you do, but
Mhm.
something somewhat comparable that I do is I DJ a lot of events.
Okay.
And, you know, obviously people aren't I wouldn't say they really heckle, but they can be a little annoying with requests or be like trying to just come up and talk to you when it's like obvious I'm in the middle of something. It may
Right.
seem like I'm not doing anything, but I'm trying to figure out the next song and build out like what the next it's always like in my head figuring out what is the next 15 minutes going to feel like from now,
Mhm.
just to keep the vibe up.
Right.
And then you get some person just trying to blab in your ear when you're in the middle of doing something. It's like, I gotta keep the show going. This
They
isn't
thought
about you.
they had the special sauce that you were missing. That they were
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know. Like the customer's always right.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
There's no easy way to shut that down, I'm sure too. In
Uh-huh.
most, I'm sure, scenario that you're DJing.
Yeah. I'm pretty I think I'm way more respectful of people on a dance floor in that regard than a lot of other DJs I know. A lot of people will just be like, fuck you, like this is I'm the guy, this is my music, you're gonna
Yeah.
hear this. And like for the most part, I'm kind of like, sure, whatever you want to hear, I'll find a way to work it in. I'm
Mhm.
not an Alexa, I'm not gonna play it right away.
Right. Right.
This isn't like touch tunes. You can't give me money for me to play your song next. Like I don't want to fuck up the vibe of the room.
Right.
But I'll work your song in. If it takes me 30 minutes, I'm sorry, but hey,
Yeah.
be patient.
Right.
Just hang out.
You didn't get a no.
Yeah, yeah. And it's just being in those scenarios sometimes can be like really, really silly in terms of the low attended, why the fuck did I do this? Why did I
Mhm.
drive all the way out here to do this thing? And again, you're just playing to bartenders or whatever. And it's
Yeah.
just like, what the fuck are we doing here? I guess I'll just try some different things out
Yep.
and just go for it. Can't have the good without the bad.
Right. And like you said, worst case, absolute basement of the experience, it's practice. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You got all your stuff out. You're doing like a dress rehearsal, if you want to look at it that way.
Mm. Do you ever have any opportunities, speaking more about your original music,
Mm-hmm.
have you played any shows that are just original music?
Where I can find them. Actually, I've done some at the Green Beacon. I saw your band there back a couple summers ago. They had some of the ones out in the behind the building.
Yeah.
And past that, like mostly it's just been at typical gigs where I'm working it in. But it's hard to find. I maybe haven't done the best job of chasing them down either. But I have a hard time finding places that are just original music for just the acoustic thing that I'm
Yeah.
doing.
What about like open mics or anything like that?
Yeah, those are I used to attend some pretty regularly, which and when you find one that you like, that is really nice because then you start to see the same crowd, on
Mhm.
a regular basis and stuff. But those I do think those are a really good thing. I haven't been a regular at one for a little bit, but
Yeah, I
those
think
are great for it.
uh I'm pretty sure that over at there's a record store right across the way called the Government Center.
Okay.
They do shows and stuff there. They have like a bar and a coffee shop. And I'm pretty sure they're doing a weekly open mic there now. And from what I've seen online, it seems to be a lot of like people that are a part of like the some adjacent areas of the rock community that play in bands that are like
Mhm.
going just to like show new stuff to each other. And like it seems like actually like a big like music scene kind of cool community hub.
Okay.
It might be something worth checking out
The
if you want
Government
to
Center, you
meet
said?
some people. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I will definitely look into that.
Yeah, it's right down the street from here, and I know that they're doing it on like weekday nights. I'm not too
Okay.
sure. It's either on Sundays or Mondays or it's some weird like early
Sometimes those
week.
are nice because
Yeah.
then, it's you don't have all the other stuff that overlaps if you do have it on. And that's part of the nice thing about finding an open mic or something that's a regular like that is they do tend to happen on not your typical, it doesn't have to be Friday or Saturday.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And again, I think that it's cool if you can find one where it is like a community of people that are also active in the music community outside of open mics.
Mm-hmm.
So I think sometimes you can find open mics where that's all they do, and that's nice in a way.
Yeah.
But also too, if you're looking to branch out and get more opportunities to do stuff outside of an open mic environment, it does help if you have a community of people that are getting together once a week just to show demos of things they're working on, or talk to people about shows, or network, or
Yeah.
whatever, you know?
Yeah,
It's a
it'd be nice
nice,
to even get like I would like to get involved with some other people just to do some fun different things, like trying to do co-writes or work on, meet some other people to try to do some collaborative stuff like that with.
yeah, definitely. It seems like a good place to try and do that would be one of those open mics. And I'm just thinking about, again, the government center, because it's, it's right down the street from here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been popping up on my algorithm a lot, has been showing me it, because I guess they're just posting about it.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Regarding like how often you're gigging, you said that you do gig pretty regularly.
Yeah.
How do you manage balancing like regular gigging and just like being like a functioning adult with a life and a family and all of
Mm-hmm.
these other things? That's always the interesting question for how do you juggle all of this stuff? Are you like, sorry, I mean, I'm asking you one more question, but are you doing like any other like normal adult work outside of the gigging, or is this what you're doing full time, is the gigging stuff?
No, I have a full-time job. I'm an engineer by day, and then I also have 2 kids that I have half the time. So, as far as gigging goes, I have my weekend that I do have them, and then the weekend I
Gotcha.
don't have them are the ones that I try to fill my calendar with that way. And, it's it's nice in the way that, that time is sort of by that schedule. It's just sort of set up that way. So, it seems like a good amount. And I've gotten to the point too where I don't know. It's really the only hobby that I have left of mine that I still like stuck with, and so it's not something where I have to put in a lot of like rehearsal time or anything, but it is um I don't know, routine wise. I like where it's built into my schedule, and it feels like I can. I always feel after that weekend where I have my gigs, I feel like I got something out of my system, or like got, I assume for people that like exercise is what they feel like after like a really good workout.
Sure.
But,
Okay.
so those are, my weekend gigs, like I usually have Friday and Saturday night. And after that, I feel like I got my fix of, getting to do the thing that I like to do the most in like my little block of time. And then it's back to the next couple of days. It's full-time
It's full-time adult.
yeah, full-time adult stuff.
Yeah, gotcha. With playing a lot of cover songs, another thing I was wondering about is new material,
Mhm.
right? Like there's new music that comes out every second of every day. And I imagine you may be interested in incorporating some of that stuff into your set, or do you try to just stick with like the classics? And if so, how long does a song need to be out before it becomes a classic?
That's a good question. I can't say the last new one that I've added. It almost has to. It's weird how we all listen to stuff now, because something would have to. There isn't like radio hits anymore, and something almost has to go viral or something for everybody to hear it. So, as far as playing out at bars and stuff, I think it'd be a small handful of newer songs that everybody would recognize, and that could just be me being out of touch. Maybe there is just as much stuff that people would recognize, but it seems like it'd be harder to pinpoint the ones that are everybody in the room would have at least heard,
Yeah.
because we're not all listening to like the same 4 to 10 radio stations or stuff like that anymore. Everybody listens to what they want when they want, or they do still listen to the radio, but I feel like it's so fractured in how everybody
Yeah.
listens to it. I couldn't tell you what a popular new song is right now, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
So, how many Taylor Swift requests do you get?
I don't get a lot of them. I should
That's
learn.
surprising to me.
I should learn one or two just as an answer to it,
Uh-huh.
just to have something ready. I don't nothing against
Yeah,
it.
totally.
Like if that many people like it, she's doing something right. But yeah, I do get the occasional one. There's almost maybe a little bit of an avoidance for that. Maybe it's because I'm a guy standing up there with it that they.
Totally.
And now, if I was, female doing it, I'm sure they deal with a lot of the Taylor requests.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
With everything that you're doing and learning all of these songs, were there any artists that you found throughout the course of time that you didn't really know too much about until you decided to try to learn one of their songs that you maybe were like, wow, this is a
Yeah.
great artist?
Yeah. Some of them, like going back to, so coming out of college, back to the cover band thing. I was just looking for people to play with, and back then I went on Craigslist. People would post just for looking for people in bands back
Yeah.
then. And group I ended up getting in with, there's probably like two different cover bands. I spent a couple years with each of them, but they were both in both of them. I was the youngest person in it by a good 15, 20 years. Like they were all much older gentlemen. But with that, learned a lot of like old classic rock songs that I wouldn't have spent the time to learn. But maybe because it was like out of my hands and just well, no. We've played a bunch of places. Trust me, these are all songs that work and people like. By the time I did start playing anywhere by myself, I did have this nice backlog of like I would have never taken the time to learn Brown Eyed Girl or like Let's Get It On by Marvin Gaye or I got really into Tom Petty by like learning some of those songs we were learning for that band. So yeah, there's that was sort of it cracked the door open for me that kind of kept going in the sense that like I more just go through like phases. I'll get really, really into somebody for a while, learn a handful of their songs, and then get really, really into somebody else for a bit after that.
Yeah.
So I just kind of go from one obsession to the next in that way.
Does it make it hard to just listen to music as an active listener in your free time?
It will, because like the odd one that no, I play that one, and then I'll hit the skip button for a song that maybe I previously loved listening to, but if you sing it, once you've sung it 50 plus times, it's and sometimes I'll listen to one that I've purposely not let it play in the car for years. And I'll find out that I'm maybe only singing 80% of the words right. And, I'm getting more and more words mixed up as time goes on by not letting myself listen back to the original type thing. So I have a lot of that.
Yeah, that's really, really funny. With the duets, impromptu stranger duets aside, have you ever done any sets with another person, or do you ever share any spaces with other performers where you're swapping sets, or is it usually just you on a thing for a night?
For my gigs, it is it's just me for the gigs I do. Writing wise, I do have one other person that I collaborate with sometimes. His name's John Wolf. And we'll do sort of a fun thing where one of us will just take the start of something and we just sort of ping pong a file back and forth where we'll take turns adding parts and stuff until we feel like we built something out. I think him and I put maybe 5 or 6 songs out together at this point. That's something I'd love to do more with people that I could find. There's some other local people that play that I've talked to about it. We've just still never taken the time to sit down and do it, but I would be interested in doing some more collaboration type stuff. I did buy months ago. I bought When I run my sound, it's just my vocals and guitar into my speaker. But I did buy a little mixer with the intent of keeping an extra microphone there in case I did ever have other people that wanted to sing with me. But it's still just that has never presented itself yet.
Gotcha. Yeah, so one thing that I'm thinking about is just like if you're like gigging all the time, but it's always you, that has to be like relatively like isolating and
Hmm.
makes it really hard to find like other people doing a similar thing as you. You know, if you're
Yeah.
in a band playing shows, there's always a few other bands there. So
Hmm.
by default, there's, always 20 people in the room that you could talk to.
And there's always your bandmates too.
Yeah.
There's like that's a big one too. Like there's some, I'll book the odd gig where it's a place I've never been to. I'll go. I don't know anybody there. And if it's a dead one, that might be an evening where I go and I'm basically going and hanging out by myself for the night and playing music for a couple hours, which is fine. There's plenty of worse ways to spend an evening. But yeah, like that's it's you can never have all the best parts of everything, but like that is the part that I miss is like it's fun playing with other people. I miss that and like you're hanging with other people consistently when you're doing it as a band and going out to those other places.
Yeah. Whenever you're like promoting, like you record music, original music, and then
Hmm.
you do release it online,
Hmm.
you have like a website and a Spotify and places where people can hear this music. Um, do you get an opportunity to like promote that music at these gigs in any way other than like just talking about it? Do you set up a little merch table or anything like that?
No, I've never done the merch thing. Other than just vocal plugs, and I'll do the odd song and just say like I have that and a bunch of other originals. If you guys like what you hear, here's where you can go find it.
Yeah.
And back to Tom Petty,
Yeah. A business card, anything?
Yeah, I do have business cards. I'll hand out that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I have my Instagram and Facebook and my
Yeah.
website and all that stuff. But
Do you got like a little banner that you put up?
again, my to-do list and some of this stuff is very long. Yeah, and
Yeah, no, I get it. I get
yep.
it. Yeah.
And I for a long time I've seen other people have them and just like the little QR code thing where it
Uh-huh.
would go straight. I should get one and I should be putting it up, but
Yeah.
it's still on the to-do list.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean it's again,
self-promotion's hard.
when it's just you,
Yeah.
it is really, really hard
Yeah.
because, you don't have anybody to like ask for like help or assistance or to bounce ideas off
Mhm.
of. And again, like, if you have like a normal adult life, whatever that means, but just like a job and responsibilities outside of this like creative sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's like when if you're gigging all the time too, it's like the time comes for the gig and it's like, well, time to gig.
Yep.
I didn't think about this other thing. I didn't think about learning the Irish jigs.
Nope. It's
Yeah.
March 10th, and this is the first time thinking about it. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you gotta like I don't know, make a little to-do list of things that are like time sensitive like
Yeah.
that, and then things that aren't necessarily time sensitive but things that should get done, like a
Mhm.
banner or
Banner
whatever,
would be a
right?
good one.
And then just try to spend like one like an hour or two a week, take
Yeah.
something off the list.
Just chip away at it.
Yeah, just a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
If you're maybe not feeling like being super creative in the moment, maybe it's like, oh, I don't have any idea for a song
Yeah.
today, but I have this time.
But I do have this time. Yeah.
How can I utilize the time
Yep.
in a way that is productive?
Yeah, and that's where I do struggle a lot with that because then I'll hit that window and it's I haven't updated the gigs on the website for a bit, or I don't know, I didn't put the last this is actually alive. I just had this thought now. I released a song that came out Friday and I still haven't put that one up on my website, but I'll do it today. But
Yeah.
so just some of those things like I know it's on Spotify and I know I put it on the socials and stuff. It's just
It's so much to keep
it
track
is.
of,
Yeah.
like I have, I like just this podcast, it's like,
Mhm.
well, I have to upload the episode to YouTube. I have to upload the episode to Spotify and all those other places
Separately.
separately.
God forbid it be one.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're an Office fan, but the one character had an idea for an app called a woof, and it was just, it went to all your stuff at once. You just sent a woof, and it was like your Instagram, your Facebook, your YouTube. God forbid you be able to just hit one button.
Yeah.
And you load it everywhere.
There's some things I do use, like some social media planning stuff that allows you to go to multiple things. But even still, it's like you have to make sure that it actually published to everything,
Yeah.
you know?
And that's probably its own separate service too.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's a lot, you know, and it's really easy for something to slip through the cracks.
Absolutely.
I feel like every week there's always like one thing that like halfway through the day, I'm like, whoops.
Yep.
And I mean, it's not that big of a deal at the end of the day. You know, we're not saving people's lives or anything. This is just dispersing art on the internet, just adding more static to an already very noisy ecosystem. But you know, you do got to stay on top of it, you know.
And it's hard. Yeah. It's hard. And you know, that's between, and that's about all I get around to social media wise. I'll film a couple little segments of gigs, cut those up, put them up, and then in between that, it's posting the original songs and then just trying to get those anywhere I can to try to get them listened to. You know, some of the radio stations will have their local listen shows or whatever you want to call them. I got a couple of them on some of those, like DV does the Homegrown show on Sundays.
Oh, cool.
What do they call the ones on the X? The Edge of the X. They'll take submissions on those ones. So those are fun. Always looking for places to try to submit to, you know.
Yeah. Do you ever do any like online reviews, YouTubers, that sort of thing?
No, I know there's like services you can get your stuff reviewed by I know different people that'll give you feedback on them. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I know what you're talking about. Those are all, like, for lack of a better word, a total fucking scam.
Okay, yeah.
But no, there are genuinely like channels that do just like music reviews and things like that, where it's basically like online radio. People have different shows where they will play things that have like decent listenerships and things like that, but you gotta like really hunt for it.
Yeah. You I know you did. Do you still do? I know you had some stuff where you would do like live listens and stuff before, because one mutual friend we had, Che Marshall, I think he sent you one of mine a few years back, and you were doing something online. It was like a live listen through stuff.
There was I'll go through phases of trying different things just for fun, and this was probably like pre-pandemic and then even a little bit into the COVID sort of thing, where I was doing like submit stuff, and I'll do like a live stream where I listen to it and react to it, and it was fun, but it wasn't also like me. You know, like I feel like whenever I like sit down and I meet new people and have these kind of conversations, like this feels very me. It feels very authentic.
Yeah.
But I'm not the like live reaction type of person. And also like there was a few things that I got sent that I really just didn't have anything nice to say.
And
awkward. I didn't want to be that guy. I know there are some people that kind of really get their rocks off on being an asshole online. But I don't want to do that.
Yeah, there's enough of that.
But I do want to also like offer what I do feel is like a constructive criticism. But it's so hard to do it in real time.
Yeah.
You know, I have friends that will send me things that they're working on, and I need to like listen to it, step away from it, come back to it, listen to it again. You know, because like when you hear something for the first time, there's so much information that you have to process, you know, and then hopefully by the end of the song, you've kind of picked up on the rhythm, chord, melody, whatever the hook of the song is. And, you know, by the end, hopefully you should be able to kind of hum along with the chorus and kind of have an understanding of what the song is. But, you know, if you're just hearing something for the first time and you're on a live stream and it's like, I'm expected to like react and just say immediately what I'm thinking. There's a lot of times where I'm like, I might be like, I don't understand what this is. I don't understand what the songwriter's trying to do here. But then
I can't understand those words for that one section.
But then by the end of the song, it's like, oh, I see what's happening. I understand where the story's at.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I might hear something for the first time and be like, I don't like this at all.
Right.
But then a week later, I'm like, I can't get this out of my head. And then I go back to it and it's like, oh, I just wasn't in like the right space to fully understand this at this time.
Yeah. Stuff has
Art
to
is
grow
weird.
on you.
Yeah. So I like.
How many albums have you listened to from a band you love? And the first time through, it's, I've had a lot that the first time through that wasn't as good as I thought it would be. And I'll almost make myself listen a couple of times more. And that's when it starts to finally like click.
Yeah.
So
your expectations are such a funny thing as a consumer, because even outside of music, a lot of times when an artist puts out an album, it's funny because it'll either be like, oh, that wasn't what I was expecting, or it can also be that's too much like what I was expecting, and that also makes me upset because like, why didn't they try something new? And it's like, oh, well, they tried too much. It's like that sweet spot as a consumer where you can unintentionally be like almost entitled. You just kind of have to be like, okay, this is what the artist wanted to do, and it takes time. I think at least most art, like worth its weight in any sort of matter, it takes time to digest. Like I almost don't want to like hear something for the first time and be like, oh, I totally understand this. There's a band that I really like, a heavy metal band called Rivers of Nile, and they recently dropped a new single, and like I was in the car and I didn't even realize it came out. I like get in the car and it's like new release. And I'm like, oh, cool. And I put this on and I'm driving and I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. Like this really blew me away. And I was like, okay, I'm going somewhere. I got to where I was going and I parked and I like listened to the song 2 more times, like parked. Cause like, okay, I just really need to take this in. And then I listened to it again and I was like, wow, this is really cool. I'm going to revisit this again later. But that's like, with music, I can't just like passively listen to something and be like, oh, that was a good song. It's like, was this a good song? Was this a bad song?
Double check.
Yeah. It's just
I
like
need to verify.
Yeah, but that's like a cool thing about music and art. It makes me like sometimes feel really bad. Maybe saying feeling bad is a weird way, but like people that do visual art, like whether it would be like painting or photography or anything like that, like if you ever like walk through a museum and see the way that like people take in art, it's like somebody may have like worked years on this painting, but most people will stop and look at it for like 5 seconds and then they move on to the next thing. You don't really take the time to analyze it. At least sometimes with music, a listener, at least if they decide they're going to listen to the whole song, they're at least maybe forced to sit there for those 3.5, 4, 5, however long the song is, those minutes. But art, sometimes it could be just so like,
well, that's the skip
quick
button for art.
It could just be so quick. Interesting though. I don't know. I don't really even know where we're derailing a little bit here, podcast territory. But just bringing it back whenever an artist puts out something that is maybe not what you were expecting as a listener. I think it's cool. I mean, sometimes it sucks, there's definitely times where I have revisited things because that was the question you asked me if that had ever happened to me. And for sure. Absolutely. I find that also too, it's been really hard for me to continue to listen to new music because I always compare new artists to artists that I've already like listened to growing up. Like, oh, why would I listen to this punk rock band? Because I already have this punk rock band in my life that does this stuff. Then I don't care. I've already heard this, but I know it's like different. I shouldn't view music through that lens.
Do you have a way that you like to find new stuff?
Friends,
just friends recommendations.
I when I used to work an office job, and like it was an office job that was like cool and you could have headphones in, so I would listen to a lot more music. And then And I would like build out, like I would like follow my release radar on Spotify,
Yeah.
and I would add things to playlists. And then, the thing that's cool about those platforms is if you make like, oh, this is a playlist of all the music I like this year,
Mm-hmm.
and then it uses its fancy algorithm to be like more songs that you should consider adding to this playlist.
Right.
And it's like, oh, well, what's this?
Yeah.
So it's like picking up a taste of whatever you like. But these days, not so much. It's really dependent on uh people telling me about things,
Mm-hmm.
or every once in a while I will happen to just scroll through things on Spotify if I'm in the car, but most of the time it has to be an artist I've already been aware of.
Yeah.
I will very rarely click on like a new artist anymore.
Same. Yeah.
Um,
Now I'll try the DJ on Spotify some, and like it's slipped in some songs that like I've ended up liking, but for the most part, yeah, I keep going back to the same
mhm. Every once
stuff.
in a while you might like let the album play through, and then it like puts on a new artist, and I'm
Mhm.
like, whoa, what's this?
Yeah.
But yeah, usually it's just like friends
Right.
and people telling me or seeing bands. I try to go out to as many shows as I possibly can. If I don't have a gig, I will try to go out to a show. I mean, a
Mhm.
lot of the time though, that is like local stuff, and a lot of local bands maybe just don't have a release out yet or anything
Okay.
like that. But it's still like cool to at least know what's going on like in the community, even if that is kind of separated from like the world at large, and like
Yeah.
big bands with fancy budgets putting out very high quality, cool studio stuff versus like the DIY stuff, which not that I have a preference for,
Mhm.
you know, Hollywood music making, but sometimes it is cool to just even hear what's happening from a production standpoint, because I'm into
Yeah.
like recording music and things like that. So a lot of bands, it's just like, wow, you can make something sound like that. It's
Yeah.
pretty crazy, even though the majority of the music that I listen to, which would be heavy metal, hard rock, punk rock, loud guitar, angry stuff.
Mhm.
A lot of that production has been pretty similar over the past decade. Um, a lot of it's very, well, got to get into a conversation about computer recording, but a lot of it's very digitized and
Okay.
kind of um, manicured, very
Okay.
manicured music. You record music, so I
Yeah.
imagine what's capable in
Mhm.
terms of fixing mistakes and
Yeah.
making things sound a little nicer than maybe they should.
Mhm.
There's a lot of that tomfoolery going on in modern music production for sure.
Definitely.
Which is like, it could be cool, but also a little bit um kind of takes the edge off a bit.
Yeah. We were talking before we started on here that you were tracking vocals earlier. Do you for your band, do you guys where do you do the recording for the band? Do you
So I mean, it really depends. The thing that I was tracking vocals on earlier here, we're doing everything in here.
Okay.
Um and then, I play in like fucking like 15 fucking bands.
Okay.
Not actually 15. It's like three and a half, four bands. And I even question saying that, because the thing I was recording vocals for today, nobody knows about this
Oh,
project.
okay.
It's not necessarily top secret. We've just kind of been working on it for a few months and haven't really told anybody about it.
Gotcha.
Um,
I didn't see anything.
yeah, no, it's fine. Just putting more mystery out there into the world.
Even better.
But yeah, no, I will, we will record guitars, bass, everything in here. I haven't tracked a full live drum kit in here yet, but I
Okay.
could. I've done like electronic kits and stuff like that in here.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I could track drums in here just for the most part. It's like, uh, if we get to a point, because like a lot of the stuff that I do, if it's not like an electronic based things, I do a lot of more like industrial and electronic and hip hop stuff too, especially for other people.
Mhm.
If it's something that is like full band based with my band, like I play in a band called Normal Creatures.
Yeah.
And we just recorded an album with Matt Very at Very Tight in Sharpsburg,
Okay.
but we like half recorded it there. Like I did all of the we did I recorded all of the bass, we self-recorded the guitars and all of the synth stuff. not here actually, because we did a lot of that prior to this recording setup being set up here.
Okay.
But I did do it on this setup in a different room before it was moved here. I'm being way too technical.
No,
I'm gonna say,
I love that stuff.
yes, we did that stuff, and then with Matt Very, all we really did there was the live drums, vocals, and mixing.
Okay.
And that was more because I wanted to have an extra person in the room that was removed from the songwriting
Mm-hmm.
that could just focus on the production and the engineering. That way we could just focus on the performing.
Right. And then it's nice to have that. Sometimes it's nice to have that out of your hands because
Yeah.
it's, you know,
Yeah, that way you can
extra
just,
set of ears, extra set of, you know.
it's I love having control over everything, but it's also really nice to be able to work with somebody that you trust,
Mhm.
that like after I've done all my takes for the day or whatever, like I get to step away from it for a few days, and then I
Right.
don't get to hear it again until somebody like him
Yeah.
has gone through and mixed it and made it sound all good. And
Right.
like, you know, I'm like, okay, cool.
It's someone you trust. Like once
Yeah.
you've worked with them, I'm assuming you've worked with them before.
Definitely.
Yeah. So then it's something, once you know that you trust their tastes and their input on it, you almost get excited to hear
Mhm.
back what they're going to do with it.
But
And I did see the video you guys put up of, I apologize, I can't remember the name of the track, but the one where it was like above and stuff was
Yeah.
rotating, that looked really, really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we did that ourselves in our practice space.
Okay.
Yeah. Just with a GoPro and a dream, baby.
It looked really, really cool.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been having I don't know. I try to do as much stuff myself as I can.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten burned in a lot of ways working with other people, you know, on the flip. Like,
is there stuff you've found is like riskier than others? Is like video stuff maybe, or versus?
I spent a lot of money for a Normal Creatures music video that we never released.
Ooh.
You know,
Yeah.
And that's my bad.
Well, I mean, that was a lesson learned, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But there are good people that do video. Because I mean, also too, I know that like I do video for other bands,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that I've done videos for other bands that they weren't happy with at the end of the day.
Okay.
For whatever reason, you know, whether it be my limitations as, you know, an independent videographer, you know, like it's like, hey, you know, it's just us in this room with a few $100. What do you think's going to happen?
Right.
You know, you kind of have to set some sort of a expectation that is real.
Yeah,
you know
definitely.
what I mean? Like this isn't going to look like a high budget production.
Right.
You know, we don't have a whole team of like lighting and makeup and a stage design, you know, like,
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, video, I mean, you can get burned on anything, really.
Yeah.
I think the best thing that you could do as an independent artist is at least having a knowledge of all of it. How do I put this? So I feel really comfortable recording with other people because I know how recording works.
Yeah.
And I would also feel comfortable having other people shoot a music video for me because I kind of understand how filming things work.
Yeah.
Now,
you know enough to know if they're way off and what's going on.
You know, now I made the mistake in this particular circumstance of we were doing a video that was going to be very post-production heavy intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
Much like the video you saw that we did.
Yeah.
You know, like if you saw how that was filmed versus how it turned out, it was very post-production heavy. And I did all of that post-production myself. I had a plan in place, so I filmed it accordingly,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew what we needed to do. Now, I put too much faith in this other person that I had hired that they had an understanding of what the post-production they were going to do was.
Okay.
But they didn't. And it was one of those things that like once I got it back, I was like, oh, you don't know. You have no idea what we're doing.
Yeah.
And it's not going to, because it was filmed the way it was filmed.
Two very different finish lines.
There's only so much that you could do with the footage that exists.
Yeah.
So we were just kind of fucked at that point, you know? And, but no shade. I could have communicated things better as well. But, you know, I probably won't have somebody else do another video for me anytime soon just because it's way too expensive.
Well, I mean, I don't know. The last one you guys did turned out really good. So
Thanks.
keep doing what you're doing.
You know, I feel like in my full transparency, like there is sort of like, I know that like I don't have the nicest equipment, so I kind of have to like, I have like low quality stuff that you have to lean into as an aesthetic.
Gotcha.
And it makes it work. But it's
Right.
like, how often do I want to lean into the low quality aesthetic? You
Yeah,
know, it'd be
yeah.
nicer to have something that looks a little nicer. But I did recently buy a new lens for a nicer camera that I have, and I shot a music video for my friends that play in a band called Star Viper.
Okay.
And that looks great. I'm really actually very excited about how this turned out. I was like, oh, cool. I'm glad that I could do this.
Nice.
Nice. So maybe, and I have some fancy ideas for a fancy music video for Normal Creatures. It was going to be like more cinematic.
Okay.
I'm rambling, but I'll just throw this out there and then we'll get back to talking about Jim.
No, I like it.
But you know, I was like a really big movie fan in high school and throughout like after high school. And I actually tried to make an independent film.
Okay.
But this was way in like the early 2000s, just on like a camcorder, and I had nothing to edit. Like I edited it from like VCR to VCR.
Oh, wow.
Like very like old school rudimentary stuff. And it was, the process was great. I loved like I made like, me and my friends made like a score for it. We did all the sound design, and, like
Okay.
ADR, a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like it's very wobbly,
Very
right?
student film.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very wobbly. But it would be actually really cool to do something with some more intention. And I've done some pretty creative stuff for Creatures before. We did a video for our last album for a song called 666 Ghosts. That was
Sorry.
that's all good. It's all good. It was all like green screen and post effects and things like that, and it was a lot of fun. And we have another video that I did for, actually, that I can't say right now. That's top secret.
More
But
teases.
anyways, all to be said, I'm gonna try to flex that muscle a bit more, and hopefully do something that is like very impressive in quality, and then maybe some people will want to work with me on some more video stuff, because I would like to do more of that.
Yeah.
It is fun, but it's like, it's not fun when you don't have the right equipment.
Right. You can.
So I have the passion.
Picture what you want to do, but not be able to make it.
And I feel really confident in my editing skills, but you still need to have like good footage. So it's like, I need to get like a good camera, which I have like an okay camera and like a decent lens on it and stuff, different lenses, but it's still like knowing how to like capture that footage and frame it and light it correctly so it all looks good.
Right.
Yeah. But anyways, so yeah, if you ever need like a fancy music video,
yeah,
hit me up.
I need to think of like, that's something I struggle with, is like concepts and ways and ideas to put something else behind songs that I write, and different ways to promote them, you know? So that would be a good one to think of sometime, would be doing a different video, something other than just posting. I typically will post it and just do a lyric video. If I can find the time, I'll make one of me playing and performing it. But yeah, that'd be something. I need the right song or the right idea for one to.
Yeah, that's the thing that's like tricky too, is like sometimes, and I find this a lot with social media and people that are creating like their own content for things, where depending on what kind of an artist you are, some type of content just doesn't make sense to even try to make.
Yeah.
You know, like, am I going to make like the silly, viral, somewhat memey video for my like introspective, sad acoustic song that I wrote? It doesn't make sense.
Right. Yeah, I have a green screen at my house, but you know, what do I put behind it for most of these ideas, you know?
Yeah.
I did one song about wanting to move to Mars just because of everything not being great here. It was like a simple whatever, but that's one of the only ones I did. I put the green screen up and I just stood there and played it, and I put Mars behind.
Hell yeah.
You know, that was me digging really deep creatively for. But yeah, so I don't know. Music video ideas or concepts, that kind of thing would be something I'd struggle with, and would invite collaboration and help on. Absolutely.
Hell yeah. Well, as our train rounds the station here, I know that we've been definitely cooking for over the 60-minute threshold, which is totally fine.
Okay.
Definitely. What do you have anything that you want to let these lovely people of the internet know before we sign off on today's episode, Jim?
Yeah, if you JimO'BrienMusic.com or look me up on any of the streaming platforms, Jim O'Brien. I probably put a new song out every month to 2 months. I try to release pretty regularly, write and record pretty regularly just to keep new stuff coming. And if you are east of the city, I play a lot of different places in Westmoreland County. If you're ever in the area, I have all the gigs posted on my website. Come on out and come say hi.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for
today,
having
Jim.
me.
It's been great to hang out and chat. And again, very, very fascinated just by like how the world of gigging works for people in your position, because it's just so different to what I'm used to. And I feel like there's a lot of lessons to learn from both sides of this coin. It's just interesting how these worlds exist of like independent, creative musicians out there gigging, but in two totally different ways.
Yeah, definitely.
It's always neat.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
Awesome space here.
Of course. Thanks for
Very
being
cool.
here. And we'll do my little send off. And that is all, folks. Thanks so much for being here. One more time. Jim O'Brien in the building. Make some noise. Woo! I'll be back again next week with another episode. Same time, same place, same channel. You know the drill. My name is Brian Seitel. Start the Beat is the podcast. 2025 is the year. And until next time, take care of yourselves. Take care of the people around you. Peace out. We did it. That was a podcast. Woo! Hell yeah.
Good times.